Hey everyone, and welcome back. We've got a really fun one today, and it's going to be a part of a series we're going to do on wrapping up 10th edition. And the edition has only got a little while to go, so we figured we might as well get started on it now. And this is going to be a great one because most of the broken stuff has already come out, of course. So this is going to be an episode where we go through and we take... I've tried to list every single best build for each army, and there's multiple entries for armies. You can see 2 Aeldari codexes right there, for example. And the style is going to be, if we were to play a tournament and this was the meta with all the builds, like what would be the tier list for that? So the 10th edition archetype tier list, like what historically has done well over the tournament and everything. So if you've only just joined halfway through 10th edition, you're going to get a bit of a retrospective here, so to speak. And yeah, if you're new to the channel, of course, drop a comment, like, subscribe. If there was a build which you think we've missed out, there probably is a couple of sneaky ones maybe that we've forgotten. So if you think there's something that we missed out or that you really hated playing against, drop it in the comments below and we'll see if some other people agree.
Dave, I think this is going to be chaotic and fun here. I hope you guys enjoy this kind of content. Obviously, it's not directly relevant to the existing meta, but there are some kind of analysis that you can take on metas and the way that GW does their balance from the number of codexes that we have on the bottom of the screen here, which we think these are pretty much all pretty strong armies, right? So if this was 9th edition, we'd be flowing over onto another slide.
Yes. Talking about that, I think one of the... We saw in 9th edition, if you guys didn't play, the advent of like codex after codex being completely the next best thing, right? Like we had Void Weavers, we had Tyranid Warriors, we had early Tyranid multiple book stackings, we had Votann that got nerfed well before it was even released, like Custodes, and the next thing that dropped was like clearly the best thing. That process still happened a little bit in 10th edition, but I think, Canoptek was maybe a really good example of that, but it was toned down a little bit. However, we still ended up coming up with what we indexed for the new edition, of course, and that was a whole bunch of things that we'll get to, but we still saw that a little bit, I think, and towards the end of the edition here, I think we've seen that a little bit, particularly with some data sheets coming out as well.
Yeah, I mean, the start of 10th edition is probably the perfect starting point for the chaos that is about to ensue. And Dave, I don't know if you remember, but there was a Warhammer community teaser of the Aeldari rules.
Oh, yeah.
And we made a video on the teaser. And we saw the teaser and we just saw a few rules. It was the fate dice and the reroll 1 hit wound. Yeah. And we were immediately like, this is going to be broken. Like, guaranteed this is going to be broken. And then our next video was, we should ban this.
Why don't we start with that? Why don't we start with that? I'll find a couple of codexes.
Yeah.
Do you want to run us through what the early index or this build in particular, I think?
When the edition dropped, there was a new rule which was released, which was called Devastating Wounds. We're all very familiar with Devastating Wounds, but that was an absolute game changer initially. And the rule got toned down quite a bit, but on release, it was mortal wounds that spill over into the unit. So if you do 20 mortal wounds, you will do 20 wounds worth of damage. So you'd kill 21 wound models, not just a single model. Devastating Wounds combined with the Fate Dice fixing mechanic, which is very similar to Miracle Dice now. Eldar don't have that rule, but they used to have you roll a bunch of dice and you can kind of take some of those dice and use them as your hit or wound rolls.
Some dice. It was 12 dice that you got right at the start of the game. You could sub as many times as you wanted, by the way.
So we had these Wraith Knights with their Devastating Wound Wraith Cannons that were 2d6 damage that could become Devastating Wounds. And you could just throw in like 3 6s on that and just decimate anything you want. They were towering, which was introduced in 10th edition as well. So it was just unstoppable.
Yeah. And then you could also attach you couldn't attach, but you had Farseers, which could make your Wraith Knight -1 to wound. So you had like a giant 2-up save Wraith Knight that was like toughness 12 with -1 to wound on it. And then you could also get, I don't think it was a Farseer, but
it was a Farseer that flips the dice to a 6.
Yes, there was a Farseer that flipped the dice to a 6, but you could also get a Farseer that could guide it for full rerolls to hit. And then Overwatch was really powerful back then because you could Overwatch with Titanic models. So you would have a Wraith Knight that could see the entire board, would automatically get 6s on Overwatch because it would full rerolls to hit and get blast, and then you could sub dice in on the rerolls to hit. Then when it shot you, you would roll the damage and it would be a 6 to wound because you'd put in the dice for devastating, and you could literally kill an entire 20-man neophyte squad when it came down. It was the most broken thing, I think. I personally have ever played in Warhammer.
Oh, do you think this is the most?
Yes, I think even no matter what previous build I would have played in 9th edition, I think genuinely this would have beat that. It was very, very strong.
Right. So I have an interesting counterpoint to this because I think the Wraith Knights came in as a shock because people hadn't developed strategies with the other armies because 10th edition had just dropped. WTC was going on at this time. So there was a lot of people not sharing information. And the Wraith Knights came out, they were so easy to play. The singles win rate spiked up to a ridiculous level. But it was kind of interesting being in WTC at that time and trying to work out a counter for the Wraith Knights, which was my job for Team England. And I think we do have Thousand Suns, unnerfed Thousand Suns, right?
Yes, I know, yeah.
The initial index release Thousand Suns, which, after a lot of testing, it suddenly clicked. Hold on a second. The Wraith Knights have 0 defense to mortal wounds on their end. Everyone was just looking at the only thing which puts out a lot of mortal wounds is Wraith Knights. But actually, Thousand Suns put out a hideous amount of mortal wounds. And on release, they also played with indirect fire. And everyone got caught off a little bit because they were used to playing Terminator bricks from the previous edition. That they completely missed that MSU Rubric Marines with their characters attached allows you to play the army rule, which was still Cabal points, but much stronger than it is now. And the total output of the army was hideous at this time. In my opinion, the Thousand Suns in WTC had a direct win against the Wraith Knights. And sure, they didn't have as good a matrix into everything else, but I would argue that this was coming up to the strongest army in that WTC meta. And it was quite secretive as well.
Funny story. I actually, for the War Masters event, for that tournament, I was playing Deathwatch for the main event, but I was like, hey, Brian, are you playing, can I take your Aeldari army to War Masters? Because I was like, it'd be fun to play this. I was like, I'm never going to play this thing, so I'll just run and have fun with it. It was 2 Wraith Knights and 10 Wraith Guard. We didn't talk about Wraith Guard, but they were like super busted as well. You could shoot in combat because you got pistol if anyone attacked you.
That's coming up, isn't it?
Phantasm. Yeah, it is actually. So I actually played Taroxor with the Spanish player with Aeldari Wraith Knights, and he was playing Thousand Suns, and I got stomped by him. He just like one-shot my Wraith Guard with Magnus in the turn. I was like, wow, this is really strong. They were really powerful, and of course, we both played T-Suns at the next WTC as well.
We did.
We were playing completely different builds, but it was really strong back then as well, when you could indirect fire your entire army through the walls with psychic flamers, which was very fun as well.
And that was after severe nerfs to Thousand Suns. So from this WTC, Thousand Suns got nerfed multiple times across through to their codex, which is weaker than their index as well. So, if you caught Thousand Suns early, that was a glorious time to be alive.
Yeah. Well, I guess chronologically speaking, because there's going to have to be some way which we can go through this. I'm looking for the Marine build.
Did you grab GSC? Because that was actually the other army in WTC time.
I've got it in a minute. You talk about GSC. And
okay.
I'll get started.
See, there were quite a few armies which people hadn't. Everyone thought GSC was strong, but because Wraith Knights was so oppressive at the time, GSC came off to a flying start because they pretty much beat everyone except for the Wraith Knights at this WTC. They were a very, very strong army. And I think they continued to play off some very, very strong rules across the entire edition. It was loads and loads of neophytes, wasn't it?
So this army was completely busted, in my opinion. I think for me, this was the second strongest army of the edition. And the only counterplay the only counterplay you had when this army released, if you were playing Aeldari, was that you stuck both your Wraith Knights together so that you could Phantasm 1 away from the demolition charges that would drop. Then you would overwatch the second one that dropped, that had all the demo charges with your 4 rerolls to hit and dev wounds, so that you could only get hit by 1 demolition charge squad. And it was like still a 50-50 that they killed your Wraith Knight with like 180 point unit or something like that. There was like some counterplay, but GSC was dropping on the table with, this is 3-inch, this is like prior to the 6-inch nerf. They were dropping 3-inch deep strikes, with 120 dudes, and the demolition charges were so busted. It was crazy. Like, you were tabling people in one turn almost playing this army. And if you didn't table them, you had 120 dudes that would respawn, 3-inch blocking their entire army. It was completely miserable to play against. And there was only like a couple of counters to this army, which were like Deathwatch was pretty good, like was a good matchup against it. And then Sean Naden played a Tyranid build with old one eye and some Dakka fixes that would overwatch with full rerolls to try and kill it. And I mean, that was a very niche build for that one, but yeah, basically Deathwatch was the only one that stood up to this one.
That was a clever counter, actually.
Yeah. So GSC was completely busted, and this is when they would 4-up respawn, I think, throughout the whole game.
Yeah. I was never ending. That carried on for a long time, by the way.
Yeah, this is true. So there's another version of GSC we got coming up here in a minute. So GSC was extremely strong, in my opinion. We can go back and readjust these where we see fit, because we've got a lot of hindsight knowledge here, which I think changes a lot of
Definitely. You know, honestly, I think if you were starting the game and you want to do really well competitively, and you could only play one faction to become a specialist in, I think there's a good argument for GSC just having been amazing forever. And they kind of escape a lot of nerfs because not many people play them. But if you get really good at GSC, I think it is terrifying at a tournament to play against.
Yeah. They've been really good throughout the entire edition. The small player base. 100% agreed. All right, I'm just going to pick a random one. Oh, I genuinely randomly picked a Canoptek Court. Oh, I think, to be fair, I've got the most experience playing against this.
Yeah. Play against it or with it?
Against it. No, I never played it in a tournament.
Oh, because you played guard at the time, didn't you?
I was playing guard at the time. Yeah, and I played Josh, I think, like 3 times on this build, and we played like in the finals and stuff. This was completely broken when it came out, but not to the level of brokenness for like Wraith Knights, right? Like, for example, guys, when this released, it was completely broken. But if you put it against Wraith Knights, it would still get absolutely rinsed.
Oh, 100%.
So when we say broken, I mean, everything on here is going to be broken to some degree. Canoptek Court, 18 Wraiths. This kind of came out mid-edition, right? And if you saw it, you know, everyone had that experience of trying to kill Wraiths. They roll 4-ups, they roll 5-ups, they can reactive move. This was back when they had the 12-inch lone op stratagem rather than the 18, which made it really powerful. But I don't know if you remember, Vic, but on the release of the Canoptek Court detachment, there was the classic mortal wound stratagem, and the immortal brick could do like 15 mortal wounds.
Oh yeah, they didn't have a cap, did they?
Yeah, and no cap.
Oh yeah.
So there was a tournament where I think Josh played, and it was like full power Canoptek Court, mortal wound immortals and stuff like that. I was a snowflake and ended up playing Awakened Dynasty, which is clearly the wrong pick. And yeah, you could just immortal wound people off the board. You had 18 Wraiths, you had 3 Doomstalkers, you had like so much stuff. This list ended up going up 150 points. And we did a funny video of it where I was complaining about the fact that guard was nerfed just as much, despite having zero kind of results that were even similar to this build. Well, guard was really strong back then as well. But yeah, bit of a history of the podcast as well here.
I thought, you know what? I'm going to stop playing like techie weird lists with all these little infantry units. I'm going to play an Avatar of Cain. I'm going to play a Wraith Knight, and I paired into Josh round 1 at a tournament, and my Avatar disintegrated. It didn't exist for more. I blinked and it was off the board against this Canoptek Court.
Were you playing the teleporting Wraith Knight? This guy?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, I remember that.
I had my little jump, but he evaporated as well. It didn't go well.
I remember us trying like Theorycraft back before that round came out. We were like, oh, how could we like possibly make it work? And we'll draw him over this way, then we'll teleport over that way. And then after the game, you're like, yeah, I just got destroyed.
It didn't work out.
Yeah.
This was actually the so I've noticed the armies that do really well, you need 2 ingredients. One is they need to be easy to play, and then I found that if they're really chunky, they tend to do better, like statistically for the whole community, than when they're really fragile. And Canoptek Court came in at a time when output was trying to be decreased across the board with big army rules changes, so it ended up really strong.
One of the worst armies I've ever assembled, because I China casted 18 Wraiths that have 33 pieces each, and that took me literally hours. Like, it was the worst thing. So that's my Necron collection.
No, as in, if everyone else is going to suffer playing them, you'd want the Necron players to suffer as well.
I completely agree. Okay, why don't we go with something a little bit different?
No,
Grey Knights.
no,
This is a
not
tough one.
this memory. Not
By
this
the way,
memory.
this was 10th edition, right? Like I'm
It
not
was
tripping
10th
here, right?
edition. This is
Triple
a
Land Raider. Is that the best build that Grey Knights had?
Dude, it was triple Land Raider and 5 Dread Knights. Every time I've tried to do something like this, where I tried, you know what, I'm going to go to a tournament, I'm not going to use my brain. It
Yeah.
never works out well.
No, I thought you did really well this tournament, didn't you?
I did, but I hated every second of it, Dave. It was so boring. You would not believe. So there's these 3 Land Raider Redeemers. They were undercosted. Their output was really good. The Dread Knights were flying around. The overall output of the army was outrageous. But
Auto Advance 6, that's right. That was the detachment rule, right?
yeah.
So you could like move them over terrain pieces and stuff to get around movement.
No, the Land Raiders are not psychic, so they couldn't do anything. The Land Raiders were literally just Land Raiders. But essentially, they only moved in certain pathways. So you could put a dice at the start of the game and guarantee that a Land Raider will reach that spot. That's how boring this was.
Yeah.
This was boring, but I agree. It probably was technically the strongest list that Grey Knights have, which is sad.
And I think we'll probably see there's a couple of armies here that we're actually kind of struggling to think like, what was the strongest build? And I think as a retrospective for the edition, we'll say these armies really didn't get as much love as kind of every other army. I think Grey Knights is a really good example of that. I hope they do, like we've talked about lots of times, a big rewrite. I'm going to put it down in D at the moment.
It wasn't very good.
I think it's interesting for sure. I remember you saying on your tournament recap was like, the more I just turned my brain off, the better I was playing.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, just jam them and like don't actually think about anything.
Yeah, let your opponent think about stuff, but a lot of people exist in this kind of mental play space, which I personally think is a massive detriment to development as a player. These are easy skews to build that look ridiculous on the board, but they just kind of work. But you never get better as a player when you do this. It's exactly the same as Chaos Knights and Imperial Knights.
Yeah, I think not just because it has 3 Land Raiders, but 3 Land Raider Custodes at the moment is kind of similar to that.
Exactly the same.
I saw quite a lot of people take that to a tournament I played recently and not really have like the best time with it. So it just goes to show there's quite a bit of play to it as well.
I mean, it's a tournament, right? People are going to come, they want to do really well. Yeah. But if you actually want to become good at this game, it's not about the number of wins you got at the end of the tournament. If you got 4 wins with this, but you only got 3 wins with an actually balanced army, you have learnt more and become a better player with the 3 wins than the 4 wins. The outcome, you receive 0 prizes for that except your own self-gratification. So just consider that when you're trying to meta chase armies like this.
Even if you go 7-0, you get no prizes. So
that's true.
All the way to the top. You know? And if you win, go 7-0, you get a trophy, which, you know, whatever, we both got lots of. So, like, there's no prizes, really. Okay, I'm going to try and... okay, there must be a guard one here, because we've got a few guard ones.
There should be a couple. Oh, yeah. Bridgehead.
Bridgehead was pretty damn strong, dude.
This was the Aquilon release, right? At the same time?
Oh. So I can't remember. I don't think Bridgehead came out with Aquilons. But there is an Aquilon's version in here as well, so don't worry.
Okay.
This is just Bridgehead, I think. I think Aquilons had already been nerfed before when this came out, because this was part of the Grotmist release.
Got it.
This was good. I mean, I played this at a tournament and had a really deep run with it. I played like 120 dudes. It was really miserable to play on the table, because you had all these Scion blobs and Kaskin blobs, and they all have like special weapons and stuff like that, and you had 40 Krieg with, you know, and it was like, it was kind of backbreaking to play, and you had so many rerolls everywhere. So it's gonna be really tough for me to place this, to be honest with you. I'm gonna put it in like B tier at the moment. It was really strong when it first came out, and you had the 6. I want to say you had 6-inch drop, and the damage was really, really high here. And it did receive a nerf, and it was still played after that. I could see it going up to like maybe the bottom of A, but it's nowhere near on the power levels like Canoptek Core, for example, I don't think. So maybe retrospectively go back and change it, but...
My memory of Bridgehead was it entered the game at a time of confusion where everyone felt a little weak. And Bridgehead came in, and I think because the rules were so strong, people overrated it. They put it really, like, this is so busted, including myself. It wasn't actually as good as that, but I do think at the time it sat as a kind of like it was impossible to overcome the obstacle that Bridgehead did,
Yep.
unless you got a little bit lucky.
Yep. I think Nassim did a really deep run with it against Ennis Wilson at Nottingham, I think, was the tournament that it actually did best at in the UK. But it was a bit of a different play style as well, right? Like you had the Aquilons, which you could 6-inch drop after the nerf, but then you also just had an army that could drop and really kill stuff, which was a little bit of a harkening back to the GSC archetype in some ways, because you had these Krieg that could like respawn onto objectives, and then you also had units that could legitimately drop 6 inches and kill stuff that they dropped and trade up, which was a bit of a tough play style to play against. Some archetypes, if you had Bridgehead, like you played against Knights, for example, you would just drop and then destroy them. Like there's literally no counterplay, which was not a great play style after all. Okay, I've got Ironstorm here. Ironstorm, man. Ironstorm was good for a really long time. You know, Alex Harrison was playing it big time in the UK. And it did really well in team events, and it was like the go-to de facto build. Black Templars Ironstorm. You had like Lancers and Valiants and Reapers that all had the multi-melters on them, and you could field a lot of vehicles.
Yep.
Do you remember, Vic, when Ironstorm got released and they had everything was an aura? So if you've played it nowadays, guys, it's a targeted ability in the command phase, but all those enhancements used to be auras. So it used to be advance and shoot aura, fall back and shoot aura. It used to be lethal hits aura. And then there was one more, blanket damage was also an aura ability that you could blank. I think that's still an aura, but advance and shoot aura, fall back shoot aura, and then lethal hits aura was super, super strong. Because when this first came out, Vic, I remember, the very first lists that people were building, of course, were triple whirlwind, lethal hits aura with Oath of Moment, and you got +1 to wound, I'm pretty sure at that time, and you were just like parking lot, 3 whirlwinds, and then just like indirect hardcore while still having like all these tanks. I actually lost to Matthias Bellman, I think, at World Champs when he was playing Ironstorm as well, and that was after it got nerfed a couple of times. It was still really strong.
Oh gosh, I remember that very well because it was tipping over into WTC, but I think it hit some nerfs just before WTC. Became a fair bit weaker. This archetype, interestingly, I don't think was that busted once the whirlwind stopped being a thing.
Yep, fair enough.
I think the whirlwinds were oppressive, but I always feel that about indirect fire. I would actually put this in C tier.
C tier?
Yeah, I think at the time it didn't actually make that much impact. And I think it gets demolished by the stuff on here.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's so hard to like compare them like when we're doing it on the fly here. But yeah, I could see it in C tier. It wasn't really like oppressive or making a huge splash, I don't think. Okay, here's an interesting one. 120 Crusaders. Obviously, in WTC 2024, Olivier Weiss was the top scoring player. I got top individual. Olivier Weiss beat me by like 3 points to get the top scoring player of the event. And he was playing a really unique build of 120 Crusaders. I think he got like 20, 20, 20, 10, 20 or something like that. Yeah. And I had obviously a much more variable amount than that. But this build was super strong, and really Olivier was the one that was responsible for this type of build archetype getting nerfed directly, I would say, right?
Quite aggressively nerfed afterwards. And it didn't survive past WTC, really. It was very short amount of time until it got nerfed after WTC. This was a painful one because we were actually doing so well against France in WTC. Like we did so well across the board. We won every single pairing, except for Olivier destroying Alex Harrison, the 20-0 to get them the small win, which is all they needed.
I feel like maybe somewhere in A tier. It's really hard to judge this one, obviously. It was just like really dominant in one tournament, I think.
Yeah.
We can come back to it, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure it is up in A tier, to be honest. I think it was a great list, but it was just very clever for a team's meta.
Yeah, and it kind of got nerfed very, very quickly. And I think the longevity here is definitely an element to the way that we rate things as well, right? Like, Canoptek was good for like 6 months, for example, right? And Wraith Knights and 120 Neos were still amazing for like Wraith Knights were still good for like a while after they got nerfed, actually, and GSC was good in that neophyte build for like 3 to 4 months. So
still, and it came back around as well. That stupid GSC build.
Righty ho, pre-nerfed codex attachment. So Imperial Knights is not really one that we had a lot of room for here, right? I was struggling to think if this was best on the edition launch, where some people were playing Knights with towering, or that pre-nerf Valor Strike, but we didn't really get data for that. So I think I should change this to edition launch.
Edition launch, yeah. Because the Valor Strike one, actually, our reactions in the video when we were reading the Imperial Knight Codex were quite funny. But yeah, we didn't get to see that for very long, and now Imperial Knights are struggling severely. On edition launch, how were they, Dave? I can't even remember.
I mean, we played them at WTC that year as well. They were like, okay, they were fine. And that was with the towering, kind of being something new to the game as well, which was definitely an edge you had at the time. It was a very unique ability. But to be honest with you, I don't think they made a splash at all. And I don't really think Imperial Knights have done well this edition in total. So I don't think that's better than Triple Lane Raider Grey Knights. If I was to play the tournament with this meta, I would rather take Triple Lane Raider Grey Knights than the Knights.
Wow. Well, on Codex release for the Knights, Chaos Knights and Imperial Knights came out at a similar time, right? We've got Chaos Knights there because they were actually quite good. I think it's on the right side.
We've got Chaos Knights, but don't ask me to look for specific ones.
There. Then next to TS, next to the Silent King, to the right, 3 codexes to the right. That's the one.
Yes. But I've got the Codex version.
This is the one I'm talking about more than the Index, because I think this was really strong in the meta.
This is the one that came out with Lords of Dread or Infernal Lance. Pre-nerf points for the new Codex you're referring to, right?
Yes, yeah, nice. with the Abominants that do all the mortal wounds and a splash. This was very oppressive, actually. But it didn't last long, which was good. But did it spill over into WTC? I think it did.
No. So what happened is this got released just before WTC, and I actually remember playing a practice game against Nassim actually when I was at Brian's place just down here, and I had my Ultramarines and stuff like that, and I won the game reasonably comfortably.
Nice. I
was playing against the triple Abominants and everything like that, but I had double Oath, so they were like, if you just had a lot of good output, you could beat this army effectively, and I think that's what's different between this and like Canoptek Court or T-Suns and Wraith Knights and stuff like that. Even if you have good output, these armies like still beat you. But yeah, they had the Abominants where if you moved with a 9-inch, they ended with a 9, they would deal mortal wounds and you could stack like 3 of them or something like that. And this was like pre-points. But I don't think that this was... I think this was... For me, I don't know if this was better than Ironstorm, to be honest with you. Because its flash was so... tempered, and then actually people ended up playing Infernal Lance, which ended up being better at WTC, which was the kind of way to build it rather than Lords of Dread.
With the Crusader, with the whatever their Crusader version is, right?
Just the 3 Despoilers.
Despoiler, that's the one.
Yeah, and then playing the Small Knights there. So if I think about it personally, did that have a bigger impact on the game? And at a tournament, would I rather play that or pre-nerf Ironstorm? I'd probably rather play pre-nerf Ironstorm personally.
Fair. I mean, as an Eldar player, this was a nightmare. This was just unplayable with the amount of mortal wounds that came out of that Chaos Knight Codex. But I agree with you. That's good reasoning. Okay,
well, I'm trying to go... Let's go for something a bit different. Emperor's Children.
EC, yes.
Obviously they're a new codex at this edition, right? But
yeah. Damn, dude.
Because they took a bit of a points nerf, but they were really strong when they came out, right?
See, they're really strong, and they were strong on release. But they were just beginning to taper off as people realized how they work. And then they took a nerf, and then it became to the point where only extremely skilled players could make them work. And I think a lot of melee pressure armies really caught up with them hard. So if we're looking at it from a broken codex perspective, they had all the rules. But they were an elite army that actually, if you get the tempo right on them, you can win very consistently against Emperor's Children. I wouldn't say they were extremely broken. I don't think they made the huge splash on the meta, except for noise, really.
Yeah. Cool. I'm happy to put them behind the 5 bigs.
Yeah, I think they're around there.
I know, they were really strong when they first came out. They had a bit of a unique play style, but I think you're right in that a lot of that was people unsure how to play against them, like not giving up the buffs and stuff like that. For example, if you drop that into the meta now, people would be a lot more accustomed to playing against them, so they got a lot of leverage that way. And if you were rocking into a tournament, I would put them in C2. I think is pretty fair.
What was happening was people were skirmishing like how they normally do for points in the early game and giving Kotri so much buff with like 3 or 5 kills by turn 2. And then if you do that, you will lose to Emperor's Children because a single Demon Prince will kill a whole army once it gets a buff of 5. But if you just slow it down, the Emperor's Children player is forced to run at you. And if they run at you and only hit the things that you want them to hit, they'll die the next turn. So I think people started realizing that a little bit over time.
Dude, you know what's crazy? It's going to be hard to punch up into this A and S tier I'm thinking right now, you know?
There's stuff though, man. I think there is. Yeah. Okay.
What about Codex Release Death Guard? This was an absolute menace, mate. Gosh. Remember the Mortarian's hammer build with the Lord of Virulence that could like look at something across the battlefield and you get 4 rerolls to hit in their deployment zone or something? Or they played a Tallyman and they picked a unit to get 4 rerolls to hit with their PBCs with Indirect. Bloat drones were like 80 points or something dumb like that.
The Death Shroud Terminators.
DSTs.
Oh gosh. Yeah, with the 6-inch deep strike.
This was pretty strong, man. For me, this is definitely in the A tier.
100%.
Where it's going to be in the A tier, I think, is
I think this is on par with how Canoptek Court was. This was a big problem because if you could deal with the stuff on the front line, you couldn't deal with the indirect fire. Yep. If you could survive the indirect fire, you couldn't deal with the pressure from the Death Shroud Terminators. Yep. So you were completely stuck against Death Guard. Everything was undercosted, and they had like 200, 300 points too much stuff. Yep. This was oppressive at every skill level.
It was very, very straightforward to play as well. This was the first time. This was like really the first time I think we had kind of these unconditional like 6-inch deep strike charges that were like. That were on units which would literally table you as well. So like they had the, sustained lethal like Lance guy or something like that would get back up. And DSTs were like really cheap. So you could field like 3 PBCs, 3 bloat drones, 3 haulers, a couple of characters, and then like 9 death shrouds with all characters attached. So it's like you could get through the game. You're like, okay, I'm sort of playing the game. I've killed like a drone. I've like this one death shroud unit has like failed a charge maybe, and you're like, okay, I'm in it. And then they just drop another 2, and you're like, what's the point of even playing this game?
It's just too strong, and they actually in this entire edition, I've really disliked the short deep strike ranges. I personally think by adding rapid ingress to the game, they didn't need to give shorter deep strikes anywhere. I think Death Shroud Terminators, if they had just a 9-inch deep strike, perfectly fine. If you want, you can give them +1 to charge on the turn they deep strike in. Don't do any more than that, and it would have been fine.
I'm a fan of the 6-inch deep strike personally.
Oh man, it was a 3-inch deep strike. That was the worst.
Okay.
The absolute worst.
I'm trying to find something that we could. Okay, let's go through something really quick then. I've got Horde Tyranid Invasion. Tyranids, I couldn't really think of much, to be honest with you. So we had Crusher Stampede. I probably should have written Crusher Stampede because that was better for the longer period of time. But I think the best results here were actually WTC 2024, I think, where Brody Middleton played the Eric Lathuris style list, where it was like an onion of termagants and gargoyles. I personally think that was the best build archetype that they've had, but I think Crusher Stampede was more popular for a longer time, so let's go with Crusher Stampede.
Sure.
And this army was particularly mid, I would say. This was not super strong, I think.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
I think it was a bit better than like Land Raiders, but it's definitely down here, I think, for sure. Nothing to really write home about. And Tyranids have been like that most of the edition, I think, to be fair. Okay, back to GSC. Biosanctic respawning. Remember this one?
Oh my gosh.
It's
just 1 million units in your deployment zone, just immediately.
And then your opponent's just sitting there rolling 4-ups, and it was on massively critical units like 6 aberrants and stuff like that, and you're just like, the entire game you're playing, you're like, oh my god, please don't respawn.
I think did Ben Jones win a super major with this? I remember
Ben Jones won a super. I ended up playing him with a list we'll talk about later on as well, with the Aquilons, and even with like full power Aquilons, it was like quite a really tough game. This army was pretty damn strong, man. And it was really popular.
He was kind of cool. I thought it was kind of cool.
I think it was cool, but I just think that the respawn mechanics were a bit too strong on it. Because it was like you would have these games that would be like they hit the first 4-ups, and you're like, what are you gonna do, right? And then it just became a version of them hitting 9-inch charges and stuff like that. So I think it was a bit binary. I think for the play experience, that it came down to roles that were a bit too impactful in the game. But I do think this was really strong. I think maybe in the B tier, perhaps.
Yeah, it is like those armies next to it, actually, in terms of power level. That would be a good fight between those 3 armies. My money would be on Biosanctic and the Crusaders beating Bridgehead.
Yeah. I think you're
and
right.
and then it would be a really good game between Biosancti and Crusaders.
That would be a fun game to see. Okay, another army that hasn't really done a lot. What about Drukhari?
Oh, dude, Drukhari! You know what? Drukhari have had a journey through this edition. I think people have kept trying them, but really their index just devolved to using lots of Venoms, Void Raven Bombers. Void Raven Bombers got nerfed 3 times for some reason. And just trying to get enough output and play on the board. This is the ultimate balanced army. They have ended up with a codex that is actually super interesting. And I think Spectacle of Spite for this current meta is decent if Catan and Ultramarines take a little bit of a hit. So I would keep my eye out for Spectacle of Spite. But I think all the way through this edition, in a sea of broken armies, they have been really not broken. So
yeah, I'm going to put LGT 2025 as probably one of their better results. Obviously, Scary had a bunch of results as well. But if we're talking about archetypes, I think now that I think about it, I played Alex Sacco at LGT last year.
Yes.
I was playing the Black Templars, which is a terrible matchup for me. And that's when they had the Court of the Archon, fights first, Vector Brick. I don't think it's the strongest version of it.
Strong. He managed to dodge all the Eldar players because I played Manny and then left. So right at the end, he managed to take out 2 of us.
I think maybe somewhere around top of D tier, perhaps. I don't think particularly oppressive.
No. I honestly, it was nothing special. It was just a decent list.
Yeah. Okay. What about Aquilons? We'll talk about some guard stuff now.
This felt bad, I'm going to be honest. From my end, this felt bad. This is a bad time.
This was completely busted. This was like, you could rapid ingress 3 inches away from... I think you could rapid ingress 3 inches away from your opponent, which was the dumbest thing in the game, by the way. So your opponent would line up to charge you. You'd rapid ingress 3 inches away from them. And then you'd just be like, okay, you can charge my Aquilons or something. Then you had a 3-inch... They could all 3-inch. And you could 3-inch shoot a gun when you arrived, which could then open a hole for you to 3-inch another unit if you were playing against, say, for Aeldari, for example. So it was really, really strong. I remember I got... we played the last round differently, but I almost scored 520s when I played Pyro Cup when this was released. Yeah. So the only reason I didn't score 520s is because my opponent and I agreed to have a friendly match where I coached him. This was extremely powerful.
Yeah,
I think somewhere up in the A tier, but
dude, yeah, I think this is up there. This is, in my opinion, this is better than Canoptek Court.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, this was rough. I don't think there was anything that could actually play against this. But against Canoptek Court, I have a feeling it beats it.
No, I don't think it beats Canoptek Court actually, because the Canoptek Court is actually good because you can't kill it. Like you wouldn't have enough output. You would have nowhere near enough output to beat Canoptek Court, and they would just fly over you and you would die. Because you can't block them. I don't think it's as strong as Death Guard release. It's
okay, yeah, that's fair actually.
Up here. I don't know, it's really hard to nitpick between all these because it would be good against another army, whereas one of these armies might not be as good, Like it would be pretty good against Crusaders, but Canoptek Court would be terrible against Crusaders, so to speak.
I think we've got a good tier list here because those 3 in A tier were all oppressive in their meta.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the ones below lasted for a little bit of time, and it's like people would have tried to work out a correction for it. And then the ones below it had clear counters.
Yeah, well, the ones in the A tier didn't really have an obvious counter, did they? But
correct,
B tier was like, yeah, you can play against that quite a bit. So yeah, Aquilons were really good. They were so powerful when you were playing them because it felt like you had a tool for anything. And oftentimes you could just tempo your opponent out by 6-inch, 3-inching 30 Aquilons and then grenading and then shooting the sentry and stuff. And you could control primary with them super well because you could rapid ingress 3 inches on objectives. That was so broken. So if your opponent didn't screen the whole puck, which often meant you could just shoot them next turn, you just rapid ingress 3 inches on them and then shot the gun when you arrived and take the rest. There was so much. They had so much utility. It was the most broken amount of utility, I think, in the game. So very good fun there. Okay, what about... I've got Stormlance Stormraven. This is an interesting one, because Lennon was playing this a lot, and there were a couple of other people playing this a lot.
Josh.
You could -1 to wound the Stormraven, and -1 to hit and wound it for the whole phase. It's quite strong. I don't know if it was really, super... I think it was better than Ironstorm.
I think it was better than Ironstorm, yeah. I think it's better than the others in C tier, but In this list, it's a C tier army, which is wild.
Yes, which is wild. Yes, because this army was really, really good. You could put the Dreadnought in the Storm Raven. You still can do that, but it was like the Storm Raven could reactive move. That's right. Yeah, and then they changed the way those strats work as well. Okay, I've got another one. Dark Angels. Now for this one, I put Innes Wilson's, and there was another team playing this build as well. I think America was playing it. John Lennon was playing this. This was WTC 2023, and this was the best Marine variant to play, whereas most people like myself played Deathwatch. And this was really, really powerful. It was the best Marine build in that WTC. But I don't really think it was super oppressive, so to speak. And I think...
Worse than Stormlands?
Yeah, by quite a margin, yeah. Because this was just Gladius with Deathwing Knights, but you could play, it was like kind of -1 damage, and it had like good output and stuff, and Gladius was like a little bit less well known as well. It's somewhere down in the C tier, I think, yeah. This is a long time ago in a build I didn't play.
Yeah. All these armies are just pretty normalish armies, but Stormlands is probably the best out of the bunch there.
It's the most unique variant, I think, for sure, yeah. Okay, here's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Man, there's some throwbacks here. Bloodless Angels.
Oh, this is another Innes special. Innes came up with a lot of good lists, to be honest, this edition.
To be fair, I don't know if Innes came up with this list, but he definitely played it at a tournament.
He won a super major with this one.
Yes, exactly. And I think the finals was like a mirror matchup or something like that, maybe. I can't remember, but this was really strong. This was back when, if you didn't take any characters for your chapter, you got +1 to wound oath the moment.
Yep.
So you had just a bunch of captains and stuff with Blood Angels and JPIs that got +1 to wound, which was really, really powerful. I mean, you had this really unique like MSU build that was really good against like basically anything.
Yeah, hit really hard, didn't it?
I think this is actually stronger than... I think this could be top of B tier, this one.
Wow, it was that strong.
It was really strong. Biosantic was definitely more powerful. That's tough. I could see it beating like Bridgehead and 120 Crusaders and Biosanctic.
Oh wow, okay, they hit that hard. All right, I think it's there, man. I think it's even with all of those. Yeah, I don't think it's an A tier.
I'll put it at the top B. We can come back to it at some point. It's obviously a lot of metrics to go on here. It's pretty difficult to judge it.
Yeah, it's not a normal.
There's going to be some armies coming up that'll be better than that though. Okay. Maybe, is there any faction you want to take?
Sisters?
What about Bringers of Flame?
Okay. So Bringers of Flame was the codex. Is there only one Sisters on there?
There's only one Sisters
I
picked.
Got it.
And this was, the WTC version, basically.
Because I will tell you that Sisters was stronger, in my opinion, in the Index.
Really?
So the Index was Hallowed Martyrs, where you had all of the Archoflagellants. I won a super major with that list against very strong guard at that time. And I thought that list was phenomenal for the meta.
This is when you could field like 23 units, right? And it just felt like you had to kill them endlessly throughout the entire game. Right?
They were costed really low, and Miracle Dice was super strong. The synergy was fantastic. It was really hard to beat this army in singles at that time, and it went a little bit under the radar as well. But I don't think I lost a single game with Index Hallowed Martyrs, and I went to like 4 or 5 tournaments with that. Nice. This was the best Sisters. So if you grab Bringers of Flame as well, we can do them together because the contrast is really interesting.
I think people would say Bringers of Flame was way more powerful.
Yep.
The community would say that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Hallowed Martyrs in the Index was underrated significantly by the community, except for Nassim, who understood. He was saying they're so busted, but Bringers of Flame was massively overrated. I think that army came out with a bang when the Codex released. Everyone looked at everything. The rules were outrageous. But they took an early nerf into an extreme over nerf following it. Even at Codex level, they were just good, but they were beatable if people had taken a bit of time. I personally think the Bringers of Flame is down as a low C tier army, and the HM Index is interesting.
So you know what's funny is because I played against Kruka at ETC back when I was playing Indirect Guard, and I think it was a 10-10 against a Hallowed Martyrs Index,
See, even then, you just can't beat that army in singles.
It's so hard. I even went first. I fucking killed so much stuff on turn 1. I was like, I got this guy over a barrel, mate. This is gonna be a wash, and just endless amount of units.
I personally think it's up there with Stormlands, Storm Ravens. All of the armies underneath, you are not beating me in singles with the Hallowed Martyrs. Nah, it's not V tier.
Okay.
I think those armies are just stronger, to be honest. The Bringers of Flame was terrible. I'm going to be honest. And people kept saying it was really, really strong, even while it was getting nerfed. It was just falling off a cliff. I remember I took it to a Teams event with the Exorcists and stuff. Oh my gosh, that army was not good.
That is going to be controversial, mate. I think that might be the most controversial take, because I think the community outrage of Bringers of Flame was probably going to be some of the highest, I think.
Okay, so I'll say this. Look at the army number 1 in S tier. I agree with it completely. I play Eldar, right? I play Eldar a lot. I play Sisters a lot. Are you really going to take the opinion of someone who's played against them once or someone who's played 100 games with them? That's the bit that people struggle with. I'm not trying to be biased here and bring them down. These armies don't even exist anymore. Mm-hmm. Honestly, in my opinion, Bringers of Flame was not good. It looked good. It wasn't good.
Yeah, it was still a little bit expensive, I think, which is why. I mean, it went up in points as well, but it didn't really have like the melee pressure component as well, which like it was a bit one-dimensional in some ways. Yeah. Okay, I think I've got edition launch GSC done, so I think
I've got that at the top.
Okay, edition launch Deathwatch.
Hey.
This was pretty damn powerful. This is one of the index, periods, right? In fact, I think edition launch Deathwatch already. So this is when you could play. I don't know in your prep for WTC you played against this very much, but
Nassim was playing Deathwatch in WTC.
He had like sustained desolators that could overwatch you with indirect with full rerolls to hit sustain, that could teleport and then shoot you with the direct gun and the indirect. It was pretty damn powerful. I think this is a bit of a legacy army, you know what I mean? And I think it deserves to be. I don't think it was better than Thousand Suns in hindsight. But damn, if it's not at the bottom of S, maybe the top of A, it was so strong.
Dude, I know you played Deathwatch, right, at that WTC?
Yep, yeah.
Every other team that brought Deathwatch struggled. I know Nassim struggled fiercely with the Deathwatch. And I know his list was like, it wasn't quite where he wanted it to be, but no one else managed to get anything out of that Deathwatch army in that meta.
The problem, so I learned one of my best team lessons when I played that WTC. I learned there's no point in taking an army which is very good against one of the best armies in the game. For example, Deathwatch, like I think I 16-4'd the Belgian player when I played GSC, right? That was my best matchup. And GSC was obviously really popular. And I was like, okay, this is the GSC killer. But there's no point in taking one army which is extremely good against GSC, or taking an army that is very good against GSC, because they can always dodge that matchup, right? So I only played against it once. And then the rest of my matchups weren't amazing. But if I think, if I look at Canoptek Court and stuff like that, I think that this would smash. I mean, I don't know. Codex Release Death Guard's a bit unique because it has an indirect, but like Aquilon's Canoptek Court, I think it would smash everything below B, C, and D, I think, without a question. The Desolators work so strong. Yeah. You had Plunging Fire, Vingle launchers, you would indirect people within 24 inches from your home ruin without even seeing them. It was quite good.
It was good, yeah.
Maybe top of A.
But I would say the army felt like it had like 3 forward bricks.
Yep.
And it felt like it had nothing once those bricks disappeared.
Yes.
And they were easy to get to grips with as well. They were fast and like tricky. They appeared all over the place, but they were easy to get to grips with and remove.
Yeah, you had the Proteus kill team, which was quite cool. I really wish they had kill teams again. This is why I fell in love with the army initially, was like they had the mixed unit kill teams with like the one bike, and then you had 2 Terminators, and you had like some Intercessors and stuff, and you could move really fast, fallback shoot and charge unit. It's quite good. Okay, it's somewhere in A tier. It's obviously way more powerful than Aquilons. That's not even a question, I don't think. But somewhere in up in A tier maybe.
Sure.
It was really, really good. It's a bit hard to evaluate because it's quite binary, because its indirect was so powerful that other armies that had indirect that could kill Marines would probably be good against it, but it would hose some armies like without even having a game, I think. Okay. Righty-ho. Okay, Custodes was really tough. I don't really know what the best build here was for Custodes, but people said like early edition Custodes with Index with the fight first guard units were quite hard to deal with if you're playing melee units, but
this is codex release. No, this is index release, right?
Index, yeah.
Yeah, they were actually really good at this, but they weren't massively special. How would they be like in this meta with all of this stuff? I'm not convinced, dude. I think they're down there. They're down somewhere.
Maybe somewhere here. Probably not better than the triple land raider special. Maybe something like that. I don't
Something
think
like
there's been anything
that.
crazy.
I remember John Lennon brought them to that WTC.
Yep, obviously Folger won WCW with them as well. We have Votann, which I think is another one we can comfortably just put down here somewhere. You know, we had Index Votann, which I think was the most popular version of it when Tim Schneider was playing it. Obviously put up some really good results here. But maybe the top of D tier here.
I love hearing Votann players talk because there are Votann players and there's Tim Schneider.
Yes.
Votann players think they lose to everything, right? They think, okay, we can just about get a draw, and they lose to everything. Tim Schneider thinks Votann beat everything, and he proves it. So it's really funny to see the divergence in thinking. I don't know where I stand because I've never lost to Votann, and they never feel good like on the board to me. But what about you, Dave?
I think the results. It's difficult to replicate the results. However, I didn't play the army myself. But obviously, Tim put up great results there as well.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't... I mean, the guy literally wrote the build. And if you didn't take the build, it was kind of like, what are you doing, right? Okay, let's get up some spicy ones.
Oh,
what
my
about
gosh.
more Dakka?
Oh, my gosh. This army was
powerful.
busted, man. We had back-to-back broken armies, and Dakka was one of them. This was a rough period of 40k.
This was rough, man. I remember Brian shooting my Rogel Dawn in cover with his 85 SAG and one-shotting it. And I was like, he was like, I don't know, it's like pretty efficient. I was like, Brian, this is clearly broken. Like, what are we talking about? You just one-shot my Rogel Dawn, which has basically a one-up save. I didn't even get a save against it. And you still charged 8 of my units and then tabled my army in one turn. This was rough, man. This army was so damn good. I think this was maybe at like the top of A somewhere, man. In fact,
this was broken.
I actually think Death Guard was a little bit stronger than Canoptek. Oh no, we're talking about release Canoptek. But I think more Dakka.
Yeah, well, put it up there, man. Put it at the top of A. That thing will cleave through the other armies.
Yeah, because the other armies in A tier are kind of stat cheeky armies, and I think that more Dakka just excels at destroying armies like that. Aquilons would actually be like kind of okay with it, or so would Bridgehead, unironically, but you can't really just compare everything across the thing, can you? Yeah, more Dakka was painful.
Did you get to play against that much?
Yes, I played against it at a tournament, and I played against it for like 4 or 5 practice games. Yeah, I just had so many non-games that were just like, you know, they had the Zogrod unit that would just jail you. So you had a 50% chance of just immediately winning the game right from the get-go. It's like the unit was like 160 points or something, and it just like bought you the entire board and was still very hard to kill and was still good in combat. It was,
I managed to beat Ben Jones at a tournament when he was using more Dakka, and I got the correct role for deployment, for going first, the best mission, his like key turn where he had to kill like my big brick in the middle. He rolled like significantly under average. I needed every single thing to line up for that, and I just felt hopeless all game. I was just standing there like I whatever happens.
Just felt wrong to lose.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, brutal. Okay, what about release AdMech? It's pretty damn. I mean, that's a bit newer, obviously, right? You know, it's around, you know, in the modern times, but it did take some pretty massive points increases, to say the least.
You know, I played against AdMech 0 times.
Okay,
in the codex, not a single time.
Nice. I don't actually. I think this is somewhere in the C tier, personally. I think that it was really powerful, and a lot of people jumped on it, and it did get a huge nerf. I don't think it was crazy OP when we consider like Biosanctic, Crusaders, Bridgehead, and stuff like that. I don't know if it was that good overall. So I'm going to put it there. You could argue to and fro on it, I think, as well.
Sure.
Okay, here's a fun one. Slaanesh Demons.
Oh, the Legion of Excess. The mortal wounds pinging over off their big things.
This was pretty damn strong, I think, man. The win rate I remember at the time for this was extremely high.
Yeah.
And this was basically a brain dead army to play, as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, I remember Liam crushing souls with this.
Yes.
Yeah, this was tough. I think this beat everything at the time. Now, where would it stack up against other stuff here? Because if I remember correctly, the correct counter to this is to punch it back really hard. Is that right? Not shoot it, but punch it.
It was, yeah. Yeah, it's difficult to say because even Liam said, even in the combat games, you still just gambit. You don't think twice. You just gambit and you lose fights first for your whole army. It doesn't matter. Like that's how much you have to think in this army. This was so strong, man. I remember like there was so many armies that you would play against this, and it was just like not even close to being.
Like I'm thinking, you know, the Bloodless Angels and the Crusaders. I think it's above the Crusaders.
Yes, I think it's above Bridgehead.
Yeah, but it's on par with the Bloodless Angels because I think that would be a good game. They're very similar types of armies. You just run at your opponent and kill them.
Yes, I think that's a good.
But put it above because it had more tricks, defensive tricks.
Yeah, and I think it had longer time in the sunlight as well, in the spotlight. But if I was taking it to a tournament, would I take Slaanesh or Bloodless Angels? Probably take Slaanesh, I think, if I was thinking out of
You know what people had to deal with right after Slaanesh disappeared was Ynnari. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I don't even have Ynnari on here. Oh, we should do that as well. Sorry, I completely forgot about that. All right, you segued it, man.
Honestly, Ynnari were fine. they weren't fine, guys. They weren't fine. Okay, so Ynnari were a weird one because they were not fine unless you were one of like 3 or 4 armies that had a good matchup into it. I know I was going to tournaments with Ynnari, and the rules were insane.
What was this bad matchup? Am I missing something?
Well, I went to a tournament and what was it? At the time, there was like a list of 3 or 4 armies which were really good into Ynnari, and even like Blood Angels at the time was actually good, had a winning matchup into it. Okay. Necrons had a winning matchup into it, and I lost to Necrons at a tournament. Okay. Chaos Knights had a winning matchup into it. I lost to Chaos Knights. Okay. Nassim was playing, I think, Guard. And he was like, out of everyone at the end of this tournament, the only one that I want to play against is Vik's Ynnari. But if you were at the mid tables and you were playing against someone with Ynnari, you just would never be able to touch them. It's just impossible because the rules were so strong for a control game with Ynnari, you just could not get to grips with them.
I personally think that this is an A tier army.
Wow.
I think it's really strong. I think it's maybe at the bottom of A.
Yeah.
I think this was really, really powerful. I was unfortunately playing armies which just had 0 game into it. And I did lose to this at tournaments.
I'm going to tell you every single thing in B tier beats Ynnari. If this was the meta, every single army in B tier beats Ynnari. Ynnari does not beat Slaanesh or Bloodless Angels. It loses to Bridgehead because of the Deep Strike, and it can't deal with the pressure from Crusaders and Biosanctic. This is another army that I think was overrated because it had counters, but it required skill to beat them, and you don't find that.
This one's a problematic one because the only way to counter it is with like big melee pressure armies. Yeah. But at the same time, if you played shooting armies, it was just not even a game. Like you had 0 chance to beat it. So that's an interesting point.
In this meta, it loses to literally everything on the board. Dakka absolutely obliterated. It doesn't have the output to get through Canoptek. Yeah. It doesn't have the output to get through codex release. The indirect file will shred it, and the Aquilons will shred it. Every single thing in B tier beats it. The problem with Ynnari and a lot of Eldar rules is that they feel awful to play against, and the rules look outrageous on the codex. But at equal skill level, you will lose to a lot of things with Ynnari.
I think if I evaluate it in terms of what I would take to a tournament, if this was the meta, like all these lists were the meta, I think you're right. It's somewhere in there, and then kind of can lose to stuff in the C and D tier as well. There,
it's nice. pretty good into the C and D tier, to be honest. Yeah. So I think it's in the perfect spot.
Okay, El Tigre. We couldn't really think of like any amazing Tau builds really. You know, we had the index where you could go Cao Yuan or Monka, but everyone just kind of played Cao Yuan. And then we had Codex, and we kind of thought that the Tiger Shark was probably the best variant that Lewis Smith was playing. And he had a really deep run at LGT as well, beating myself and Nassim, who were both on 18 Bulgren, by the way. So we've got 18 Bulgren here somewhere, so that'll be interesting. But that was kind of the only good results against it, and it could just lose to other things as well. So it's a tough one where to put. I could see it maybe at the top of D tier.
I don't think the top, man. I think it's down. It's in the middle somewhere. It's nothing special. You just need a phenomenal pilot to make this work.
Yeah, I think it's more powerful than Crusher Stampede. If I was going to play this tournament, I think I would rather have a unique element rather than just like Crusher Stampede.
Yeah, that looks good.
Okay, Index World Eaters. Remember, this was kind of Anthony Vanella was playing this a lot. Angron could revive, roll the sixes and stuff.
Dude, I don't understand how Anthony Vanella did so well with this for so long. I understand it's a good army, but he is nuts to have done so well against so many amazing players with this. And when you watch him play, he's just so chilled out. He's just like, yeah, I'm going to go here. What else can I do? And he just crushes everyone.
Yep, I lost to Brian Daltrey at WCW playing World Eaters. And, the first WCW, World Eaters were really popular as well. I think this is like top of D tier army, personally.
Oh, yeah, fair.
And I don't know where this WGC 15 Gladius Deathwing Knights is going to be in the end, but I think this is a pretty good army, man.
Nice.
But, what I was playing at that tournament, Vik.
Yeah.
I was playing the special, mate.
See, this is strong. This, like, the Ynnari from the Codex is nothing compared to this.
Where do you think this should be, actually? Because this was kind of dumb.
I think this is an S tier, personally.
Oh, S tier?
Yeah.
Mate, that is a big call. I don't know if you're going to go that big.
Yeah, I think this is better than Canoptek Court.
Yeah, we both played this list, and you guys are the ones that built this for LGT on that run, right?
Yeah.
And this was... Why don't you give us your thoughts about what made this really powerful?
So this was... the list basically wrote itself once you made it really clean. The list had the Yin Khan, which was teleporting in Ynnari, 3 Night Spinners, a big brick of Wraith Guard, and then a bunch of Warp Spiders in the list. And the army was essentially you fling your Warp Spiders over, kill something, Yin Khan appears, goes, crushes the opponent, and the indirect fire just pins them in place. This was by far the best army in the game at the time. And I played my whole team. I played against Liam in the semifinals, and Liam with some magic managed to beat me with CSM. But this was oppressive, awful to play against, and was good into every single archetype of army.
You know what? There was one archetype it wasn't good into, but we'll come to that in a bit. But people were a lot worse at killing things like the Incarn back then as well. Like nowadays, you like grenade it, you tank shock it, you've got one little thing that can chuck like a random D3 Mauler that looks at it, all of a sudden it takes 6 damage or 7 damage. And it was a different time, people were a lot less experienced when dealing with units like that. And the Incarn was bananas. Like it could teleport like 3 times in a turn or 4 times in a turn. It was crazy. Night Spinners, remember, had the you cannot advance, and in addition, you're -2 to move.
Yeah, so you pin melee pressure with that.
It was the dumbest thing. Yeah. And you had, anytime you played against a melee pressure army, if you went first, it was immediately not a game.
And I'm pretty sure the Wraith Guard shoot you back after you shot them. So it's just unplayable.
And Phantasm was still peak power level back then.
Yep, you had
People were like, Wraith Guard is so slow, but it's like, yeah, but they move 12 inches because you Phantasm them forward every single turn.
Yeah.
Honestly, really good.
Honestly, I think this is ST. I don't think it's as good as the Thousand Suns.
Sure.
But I think that this is so good. This army, to the point where I'm so glad. It took too long for them to nerf this, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was run for a long time.
And I want people to note here, I'm talking about an Eldar army. Everyone forgets that I can complain about Eldar as well. But look at that. In our minds, we would say that Codex Ynnari feels just as bad. It is nowhere near the level of this. And I don't know if it's a throw from Wraith Knights and Triple Night Spinner Yinkan being up there, but I think people can't accept Eldar aren't anything more than average nowadays.
Well, it existed in 2 different metas as well at the same time, right? Like everything was a much higher power level back then. And I think an army that's awesome to talk about in comparison is CSM, that obviously Liam won his first LGT with, which was mega powerful as well. Like I think genuinely at the time in the meta, these 2 armies were basically on par with each other. And remember, you had the Lone
Forge
Op
Fiends.
Rhino.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But the Lone Op Rhino that you could put on the line in any board terrain format, you could Lone Op at 12 inches, so you couldn't even shoot their Rhino. And you could stage a melee Lord unit that had 1 CP for 4 rerolls to hit and wound out of a Rhino that you couldn't even target because you could mix all the marks together.
Marks, correct, yeah. So you had the Nurgle vehicles.
Yeah.
They had
Warp
sustained
Talons.
on 5s with the Nurgle vehicles with Lone Up as well. So this was really strong.
Forge Fiend. Oh my god.
I went to 2 tournaments with Index CSM. Had a blast. They were really good. I think they were. You were right. They were the best army in the game. I'm trying to work out where they sit in this list.
Yeah, I think I think they were better than Canoptek Court personally.
Oh, dude, really?
Yeah.
I don't know if they were that good.
You don't think so?
No.
It was. I played against this army a lot. They were really good. I definitely think they were better than like Aquilons and like if I was gonna play this tournament, like I would pick Index CSM over Canoptek Court, probably like Deathwatch and Aquilons. I think genuinely.
But look at B tier and look at some of these melee armies, and I'm
no. This would destroy all those armies, dude. Not even a question,
dude. No,
120 Crusaders, you would like one shot with a Forge Fiend. Like Ynnari, it would be like super good against.
You'd think it would, but I don't think that's actually true for the Index CSM. I don't think so. Okay.
Remember, this is an army that like was 50-50 on par with triple Knight Spinning Incarn. Like you could field so many units in this army.
I'm pretty sure the metas did not overlap here.
No, this is the exact same meta. Like LGT was literally Liam played someone playing Triple Night Spinner in the meta. No, 100% it was an
It's
overlap.
because Index CSM lasted a lot longer.
It was around for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, they had Profane Zeal was literally 1 CP, 4 rerolls to hit and wound. Then they had Lone Op, and then they had.
I don't know. I think you may have a view on this based on your experiences with it. I don't think this was as powerful as the other busted stuff. I'd love to hear the comments on this one.
Let us know the comments on this one.
Middle of A tier. That's in between both of us.
Okay, I'm happy with that. Yeah. I think that, well, you know what I should do at some point is I'll look up the list that was played just to see how many units you could get because there was a lot.
Yeah, you get a lot. I remember.
Yeah. Well, you know what did overlap at the same time as well was Index CSM ACDC, right? Mm-hmm. This is actually when at WCW Manny won WCW playing the 3 ACDC bricks. I was actually playing Triple Night Spinning Incarn. That was a almost unwinnable matchup basically, and this was extremely strong. You could revive ACDC guys. Obviously, you had like the Lone Op. You had a 20-man ACDC unit that you couldn't shoot within 12 inches. Mm-hmm. That was difficult to deal with.
They had very different rules because you could regenerate them, I think, at that time.
Yeah, you could regenerate them, which means that you could like steal primary. They were OC2, I think, off the top of my head.
Yeah, they were OC2. That was rough. They were very, very strong.
I think this was better than Aquilons, personally.
Wow, yeah, okay. I'll give you that.
It was such a difficult army to play against. To be fair, Manny was a master. He's one of the best players in playing this type of list archetype.
Yeah, hordes.
He was a master on this list. And, to his credit, won WCW with it, beating like a very strong Ultramarines list as well. Really, really strong. I mean, Index CSM had 2 really good builds, actually. And this period actually overlapped as well. Index, where you could play like the Lords and all that stuff with Liam's list, and ACDC at the same time. But it took, I think, people a little while to realize ACDC was like really, really strong there as well. Nice. Okay, I've got a demon list.
Got that?
5 bigs with Guo. I think this is like smack down at the bottom here.
Yeah.
It's gotta be right.
Yeah.
I don't think we've really seen that do very much.
No.
Then
Even
we've
at the
got
time.
Iron Priest, Space Wolves, which is interesting.
What's this one, Dave?
So this is WCW, not this year, but last year, when you could play Space Wolves, and on the Codex release, the Iron Priest gave rapid fire to every weapon. Yeah. Now, it's a bit of a cop-out because this actually got errated before the tournament, so you didn't get rapid fire on every gun. I think you got rapid fire on like... Oh, no, it was every gun, I think, for this as well. But to be honest with you, this wasn't actually as backbreaking as many things, and... I'm tempted to put it somewhere around the Stormland, Stormraven, but I don't even think it was actually.
I think it's low. It's like it's basically Ironstorm, exactly the same kind of thing, but you get a little bit less stuff.
Yeah, and I think I think maybe roughly here for it.
Sure.
Pretty fair army compared to everything that we're talking about here. Okay, Imperial agents. That's going to go even lower than demons, I think.
Well, why don't we take them to an event one day, Dave? On your track to play really good armies and do well this year?
No.
There's
Okay.
probably something in there,
What about the most powerful version of Guard? And I don't know if people know this story, but I was the one that kind of really pushed for this, like triple Manticore, double Basilisk, 30 Kasrkin, respawning in combined arms. And when I played the online team events, it really picked up popularity after that.
This was nuts.
This was really strong, and it had a lot of matchups where you could hit on 2s re-rolling with the Scout Sentinel, with the Indirect, which lined up really insanely good. I remember I played the Southampton Super Major Finals against Ed Waltz on Grey Knights, and he had like 15 Terminators with like Liberians, and I one-shot 5 Terminators and the character with a Manticore once. I was like, sweet. That's quite strong. It was... I think it's fair to say it's going to be somewhere up here. And I think...
Dude, this is the one I beat with Hallowed Martyrs. I'm telling you.
Well,
Hallowed Martyrs,
I believe
man.
that, to be fair.
That was glorious.
Yeah, this was really, really good. And actually, for the team event that I kind of innovated this for, was I built it to beat Triple Yinkan Night Spinner and CSM at the time. Because CSM had like Chosen and Rhinos, and Manticores, if you could open the Rhinos, you just Manticore all their Chosen and they die. And then against the Triple Night Spinner Yinkan, here's a funny story. I played against Alex Sacco, and I 20-0'd him after I went first with my Indirect. I killed all his Wraithguard with my 3 Manticores in one turn. And then he just said, okay, I give up. There's 20-0 before he even took his turn. So it was very good against those armies.
Very clever.
You could like wrap the Rhinos with the Kasrkin, and they couldn't jump out. Like all this stuff seems really basic now, but at the time it was like really, really innovative. Because like Kasrkin, like no one even played, and I was like, I don't know, this Meltamine, they're like pretty good. You can like just use them, and you can constantly respawn them and stuff. Yeah, this was really strong. This is probably one of my favorite builds I played all year, I think, actually.
I know I keep mentioning Hallowed Martyrs, but during this time as well, I went to a tournament and I ran Triple Exorcist. Very similar reason to try and deal with Eldar, with the Triple Night Spinner Yinkan, and went through Index CSM into the Triple Night Spinner Yinkan with the Hallowed Martyrs, just adding 3 Exorcists to that list, and it was glorious. Nobody was playing that system list.
I'm putting
Dude, put that up. That thing was just beating everything.
This is OP, bro. In fact, I'm gonna let's beat.
Put it up there.
Yeah. You convinced me, mate.
That's where it belongs.
Mate. Yeah, good amount of Indirect, mate.
It was good for months. That list.
Okay, we've got 6 remaining here.
This is Raven Guard.
Raven Guard with the characters +1 to wound, a new character set. It's pretty damn strong. Yeah. I'm gonna put it maybe top of D tier. It wasn't around for a long time, and it got immediately kind of nerfed after that as well.
Yeah. People overreacted to it quite aggressively.
Yeah, it was definitely beatable.
Yeah, I think it was not as good as Reddit would have you believe.
This is true, yeah. But it was quite... Well, actually, I was going to say it was fun to play, but I really didn't enjoy those uppy-downy style armies. So Okay, here's a throwback. 3-inch Hypercrypt with the Monolith.
Yeah, this is dark times.
This is pretty good. I was playing this, and I played 2 Monoliths for the team event, and actually this was 2 Monoliths actually overlapped with the Triple Night Spinner Yinkan. This is the same meta here. For context, this build is pretty damn strong, and you could play like Catan as well with it. You could play like just teleporting like warriors that could like move, shoot, move on your objectives. The Monolith was really strong there. I think Matt Laura won Alvio with the Monolith there, getting the sneaky deep strike in the back with the Monolith. I feel like this is... actually this is tough. I could see it being an A tier, but also I could see Slaanesh, Bloodless Angels, and Bridgehead just Crusaders and Hallowed Martyrs and Biosanctic just being stronger than it.
Yeah, we have all our melee pressure sitting in B tier here, a lot of it.
Yeah.
And Necrons really, this particular type of Necrons really didn't like melee pressure. I would put it at the bottom of B tier personally.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It would have game into some other stuff, but yeah. Ynnari was not a good matchup for it anyway. Okay, what
Which
about
one?
current Necrons at the moment? You know, they're obviously a menace, but I
Dude,
think they've got to be somewhere in.
in this world,
Oof, I don't know. I
okay,
think
so
I think maybe in the middle of C, or maybe bigger than night. Oh, I think maybe in somewhere in the top of C personally.
what kind of output profiles are needed to get through current Catan? I know they don't exist very well at the moment outside Ultramarines, but like, do they exist here?
Yeah. To be fair, I think release AdMech, Stormlance, Ironstorm, 5 bigs would probably just walk over it at the
Yeah.
moment.
It's a complete stat check, and I think we're just in a meta where no one really has output significantly.
I would maybe over here somewhere.
Yeah, that looks good. Maybe above the Chaos Knights.
Yeah, because they're obviously a bit more impactful here.
That's probably correct.
Yeah, that's nice. And 18 Vitrix Honor Guard. Tough one. This was pretty broken, man.
I think this was really
at a
strong.
couple tournaments. And this is like 4 wound, pre-point nerf, Vitrix Honor Guard.
I think that's up in A tier.
I think I can agree. I don't think it's more powerful than Aquilons because Aquilons just controlled you so well. Where it was just like, oh, you dropped here, 3 into Deep Strike, whatever. Better than Slaanesh. I think it had such a short time when it was around. I think I only played it for 1 tournament with the full points and 4 wounds. But, Bloodless Angels would struggle into it. I think it would smash all the armies below it, basically. Like, Slaanesh, it would destroy. It would be pretty good against it. I mean, Slaanesh was quite good in combat mirrors, but Bloodless Angels, it would destroy, I think. Bridgehead, it would nuke. Crusaders would be fine. It would destroy with AOC. Hallowed Martyrs, I think, would really struggle to kill it, maybe. Maybe, but it's just quite good into it. Tough one. It's pretty damn powerful.
I think that's probably the correct spot.
Yeah.
It's-
You could to and fro it.
Yeah, it's somewhere there. Top of B, bottom of A, maybe even mid B, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Let's maybe I'll put it just below Slaanesh.
Yeah, that's a good spot.
You could really
like
argue
that.
it's a bit higher than that, but I mean, Slaanesh was pretty damn strong, dude.
Nice. Yeah, I
Okay.
like that.
Tactical.
Yep.
Tactical was good.
Tactical was okay.
You know what's funny is we say tactical was okay. Like at the time, it was so good.
It was
like
really
the time
good.
of the game. But like when we look at all these armies, it's like,
It's just more Dakka was scarier, wasn't it? But Tactical was really strong. It just got nerfed so fast alongside Dakka.
yeah.
Where is it? This is a heavy shooting army, a little bit of melee.
I had the tank busters and the breaker boys.
Yeah, orcs always have melee.
I
think it's below Stormlands, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Yeah. And last but not least,
Dave, I have thoughts here.
yeah, you've been waiting for this one.
Because I've been waiting for this one because I've been looking, and every army I've just been like, does this beat? Can Fire Dragons beat this? Can Fire Dragons beat this? And I think the first army they beat is Ironstorm on this list,
Okay. Yep.
going down it. And I think they start beating the stuff around it. But even then, they lose to Emperor's Children. They technically should. They should probably lose to Index World Eaters. They should probably lose to Raven Guard. This was, in my opinion, up there as one of the most overrated armies.
I think this is definitely stronger than everything in D tier, though.
Even if it, for example, it would lose to Raven Guard and Index World Eaters, I think you're probably right, but I wouldn't put it above Stormlands on this.
Oh,
Or
yes.
tactical.
I don't think it's. Yes, I agree, 100%. I don't think it's as strong as Silent King.
Gosh, yeah, it's not as strong as those things either. The thing is, it beats the big 5 bigs.
Yeah, I don't even think those are games really.
And it landed at that kind of time, right? When Codex, Imperial Knights, and Chaos Knights came out. So it had a very good meta to go into.
Yes.
That's probably correct, to be honest.
Yep. I think this is definitely an army that got better and better the more people played it, though, as well. Like when people really discovered how to start using that package repetitively, people grew into it. Whereas some of these other armies were like immediately, obviously, this is really strong,
Yeah, definitely. People wrote off Eldar, but they were still really, really good. But then people started overrating them. I wrote a list of all the bad matchups, and it was like 8 bad matchups for that army. But yeah, you can look at it in the scale of things which are too strong. I don't think fire dragons were in there. The stuff at the top, though, that's some pretty wild memories. We've got 2
Yeah.
Eldar up there, man.
So this is if you were playing a tournament and this is the meta. Could you know what? If Wraithguard got a little bit nerfed and Genestealer got a little bit nerfed and so did T-Suns, this meta would actually be kind of interesting, you know? I'd be super keen to like play a tournament where
It would be chaos, wouldn't it?
they had to pick a list that got played with one of these lists, you know, in the past, and actually find out like what was doing it. That'd be kind of cool. I could play the guard indirect, you know. People Canoptek Court full power, you know.
So
really
I am gonna. What are you taking to your tournament? What are you gonna try and win this tournament with?
Oh, mate, it's so hard.
Come on, I'm coming to the tournament as well. I'm gonna pick an army. Let's see.
Okay. So
Is there one with no bad matchups?
Let me just make a caveat here. You can't pick one of the top 3 armies, because I think if you're coming to win, you're just going to play Wraith Knights. I think that for me, it's a no-brainer. That army was so utterly busted. But I think if you had to pick an army that was A tier and below, I think you've genuinely got some interesting considerations. Because I think A and B tier, I think you can make a lot of choices here. And if it was just A and B tier, I would go with. Oh, this is so hard. I'd go with Canoptek Court, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. I genuinely, yeah.
I'd go with more Dakka. I think I'm going to take
Dakka?
more Dakka. Oh, it's between that or the Death Guard.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting.
Oh, that guard list was nuts too, man.
To be fair, I lost with that on that guard list to like more Dakka and Canoptek Court, and I'm pretty sure I would get rolled by
Death Guard.
I think.
Yeah, I think
genuinely.
I think I'll go with more Dakka.
Oh, interesting.
That one.
Yeah. Oh man, dude, I even think Canoptek Court could have good game into like triple Knight Spinner and stuff like that. Maybe, I mean, more Dakka maybe could as well, to be fair, but it's interesting. Like, I think if we included Thousand Suns, I would immediately play Thousand Suns though. Like that's how.
You see, Thousand Suns, I would happily play with the triple Knight Spinner Yinkan into Thousand Suns.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, that would be a rough day in the park for
that's
the
a
Thousand
good
Suns.
Yeah. But I think if GSC was included, you would immediately play GSC. You know, if you couldn't play Wraith Knights, you would immediately play GSC. And if you couldn't play GSC, if you could play everything, you would immediately play Wraith Knights. And I think those 2 armies are really the cut above everything else. Like there is some path that you could lose with Thousand Suns, right? But there is almost 0 path you can lose if you're just playing old Wraith Knights, I think.
Fair.
And
Very
GSC,
true.
which only lose to Wraith Knights.
So basically, the most broken things, they just release them straight off the bat in 10th edition. They just started off.
Exactly. Epic, dude. You know what? I would love to, at someday, maybe we could organize something like at the very end of the edition where people can play, you know, absolutely busted stuff at the end. That would be quite fun, I think.
Yeah.
People get to play their old lists. We could get one person on each list that was like iconic, and they could play that. You could be on the triple, you know, Knight Spinner Incarn. I could play the full guard indirect. We could have like Liam on Index CSM. Brian
I think we
on
get
Dakka.
Liam on Imperial Agents. And he'll still win the tournament.
No, I will beat that with my indirect. That's just a math problem at that point, hopefully. There we go, guys. If we've left out an army, this has been an epic long one. Let us know. I'm sure there's something that maybe haunted a couple of people out there. But this is an epic tier list. This is probably the best one of them all, I think.
This is cool.
There's a lot in there. But we're going to be doing a couple of 11th edition retrospectives starting soon. And I hope you enjoyed. If you've listened to this long, check out the Fireside podcast. If you're a bit new or you don't know our stuff, we are competitive content everywhere. Check out 40kfireside.com, drop a subscription, and we'll see you guys later.
Take care, guys. See you next time.
Catch you later.